Welcome to Legacy Sips and Tips podcast with your host, Lindsay Wheeler. This is my guest, Lori Wilson. She is one of my oldest friends. She is a retired school teacher, so she knows how to deal with crotch goblins pretty well, and now does that professionally in a governmental capacity now. Yeah. So wanted to have you on today because when we were doing your estate plan, you just could not get the concept of funding the trust. What is funding the trust? I don't understand what funding the trust is. So I wanted you to come on to talk about funding the trust. We'll also talk about random usual shit that we talk about as well. So this might be a very entertaining episode for everyone.
Or not.
Yeah. Or you'll be like, oh my God, these two. Please delete, fast forward. Yeah. So when you were getting your estate plan together, and also when you were helping me out a little bit when you were in transition from your career, what was the hang up of funding the trust for you? Like, why didn't you understand the concept of what that actually means?
I don't know. I feel like every time that you would say fund the trust, I heard you talking to other clients and they'd ask you what funding the trust meant. And you would be like, well, it means to fund the trust. And so when it came down to me having to do that myself, I'm like, I still don't get what funding the trust means.
Okay. Do you understand it now?
No.
Okay. We're still struggling with the concept of funding the trust. For all of you out there, funding the trust is the most integral part of your estate planning process because you have your estate plan and now you have a very nice paperweight. From there, you need to actually physically transfer your assets to your trust. So then your trust owns these assets or your beneficiary designation is your trust. So it is pretty much the most important part after you've actually created your trust because if you fail to quote unquote fund your trust or transfer those assets, your heirs potentially would probably have to go through probate because you have not done your work ahead of time for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I still don't understand. So how are you physically funding the trust?
So you physically fund the trust by, say, you have a house. So you're going to then now change your deed, and that's the physical transfer of that house from you or you and your spouse as the owner of this property on that deed when you buy it, to now the deed will reflect your trust and the house is now owned by the trust. So that's how we physically transfer our real property to the trust.
So just by putting your house into the trust, that's funding the trust?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Same with bank accounts, with vehicles, you're making that either, the account itself is going to be a trust account or what most people do because it's difficult to do that these days. It's not 1986 where you just get new checks and call it a day. We have so much electronic garbage coming in and out of accounts that it is almost impossible to get rid of an account these days. And I think the banks do that purposefully, frankly. But you would have then the designated beneficiary as the trust. So when you pass away, you can have individuals as beneficiaries. And again, always do not put minors as beneficiaries. Put, adults, your adult children, whoever you want, or ideally the trust on there. So if you were to pass away, your successor trustee or your executor would come with your death certificate to the bank or financial institution and say, hey, this person's passed away. Here's the death certificate. I am who I'm supposed to be. And they go, great, no problem. They look at that beneficiary designation on your account information and go, oh, okay, great. We're going to now close that personal account because we want to protect people's things. Open now the beneficiary account, which would be a trust account at that point, transfer all that money to there. And then me as a successor trustee would be able to manage your assets from there.
So I did the house, okay. I did the bank accounts, but I have not done the cars.
Yeah. So some people go back and forth with the vehicles.
I feel like you don't own a car for that very long. You know what I mean? So that's like kind of why I was just like, do I even want to hassle going to the DMV and like doing all that?
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. What the issue we've been running into lately in the practice is that sometimes we have to do a full probate for a goddamn car. Because these cars are expensive. We got a Tesla, it's over $100K.
That's full, I'd put in, but
yeah, that's a full probate. You do have a Honda. It's a nice Honda, but it's a Honda. So it just depends. And it's always if you have the ownership of it, so you have to have title to transfer it over. But then it's kind of just like a business. So then you just buy and sell your cars through your trust business. And so it's just the same almost. You just have that one extra step where when you bought the car or paid off the car, transferring it into the trust name. And it just gives that controllability, if you will, for your successor trustees if there's a problem, that they can manage that asset as well.
So then would you say that, like, if I were to get a new car, to put it under that already so that I didn't have to, like, going back and doing it now just seems silly?
Yeah, I mean, either or. It's just a little bit of work. And that's the thing, is that you're doing the work ahead of time for your heirs, basically. So it is you doing that process for them as opposed to them doing it past the fact. So usually if you bought a new car and you're buying it outright, then you would title it into the trust. Some people don't want to do that because exactly like you said, but what people do if they're not going to put in the trust will pre-sign the title, which is also kind of a little shady because technically the DMV is not supposed to transfer it. But do people do it? Absolutely. So it's kind of an easeability thing. Usually most cars are below the $100,000 unless you're a crazy baller. I'm still working on these. I really want these problems.
You
in
did
my
tell
life.
people I was a retired teacher. So yeah.
So they know that you've got a Honda. Yeah. Not used. It was brand new, in fact. So she was a good teacher.
And I'm leasing it even.
Leasing
so
it,
yeah.
That's right. So if it's leased, then you can't do it because you don't technically own the car.
Okay, so
it's only if you have a title to the vehicle. But yeah, most cars are below that. So if you fail to put the cars in there, but you've done everything else, we can usually do a faster truncated probate. And some states have the mechanism through their DMV to transfer assets or vehicles of deceased people. So there are ways around it.
So what happens if people don't fund the trust?
So if you don't fund the trust, then exactly that. We have basically a really nice paperweight. We have a little bit of direction for the court, but we're going to probate.
Because it's like a will.
Yeah.
Without funding it? Or
Pretty much, yeah. Basically. Yeah, and some of the courts look at it that way, is that, hey, you had a trust, you should have known how to fund this trust. The fact that you did not, we understand that maybe you purposely did that because you wanted these people to go through probate, which all of us are like, oh my God, court, no, nobody wants to go through probate. But, that's kind of the interpretation that they're having.
But the one thing that you do, though, is that if they own a home, you already are funding the trust, really, because you're putting in that paperwork for the house.
I do, yeah. For Nevada, I do that for my clients because, yay, COVID, they made a lot of accessibility for these agencies, so I'm able to do that quickly and easily for my clients. Whereas before, they'd have to go down to the recorder and physically go down there and go and talk to the clerk and get it done, which a lot of people didn't. So after COVID, these agencies made it much easier to record. So I am able to do that for my Nevada people because they give me that authority to do so for them. Other than that, if you're in another state, then you would have to do your due diligence, go down to your county recorder and record it. And it's usually very simple. The recorder people who work there are super nice. Like they're just anywhere, they're super nice. So they're really helpful. They make sure that, they want this to happen for you and that you're doing something good for you and your heirs. So.
Yeah. Now, do you think people, sorry, I'm like asking all these questions now I'm here. But my question is, if you don't have a house, do you really need to have a trust?
So yeah, so that's a good question. So a lot of people ask me that. They're like, well, I don't have a house. What do I need this for? And that's fine. A trust is nice because you have control and you're able to change things as opposed to just having beneficiary designations. So say you put Bob on there as your beneficiary designation.
Tomato Bob?
Correct. Tomato Bob indeed. And you end up not liking Tomato Bob. And so, what was it? Celery Steve? What was the other guy's name with the VeggieTales? That's the most random ass thing ever. So yeah, you put Tomato Bob on there. Tomato Bob, decides to go hang out with Linguini, and we don't like Linguini.
That's what I think it is.
Is it Linguini?
No, Larry. Yeah, no, it's like Larry the celery. I don't know.
Celery Larry.
Yeah.
I don't even know. That was a long time ago. And you change your mind, then you're having to go back and change these beneficiary designations every time. And if you've ever done it, it's a pain in the ass. They have to send you the forms, you have to fill them out, you have to put them back in, you have to make sure they've done it. Whereas if you just put the trust on there, then you have the freedom to just amend your trust. I did it recently. I did a full amendment on my trust to make sure things were where it needs to go. Your children were going to get some money when I pass away.
And now they're not. Assholes.
Asshole kids. Fuck your kids. Get nothing. Actually, they got some parameters on that one, especially for your daughter.
Littlest one, yes.
yeah, the youngest one's got some parameters at this point. Yeah, so you can do that, exactly that. So she's becoming now a teenager and she's becoming kind of a dick. And so we just, put some parameters on there, I'm sure when she hits 30, she'll be less of a dick and then we just change it back.
We can hope so.
We can hope, fingers crossed.
So. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about estate planning is you have that discretion and that ability to do that. Whereas you don't, if you don't have a trust, you have just beneficiary designations that if, I had her on there and at 18, she would get all of it, all in one go with no parameters, no anything, because she's just a beneficiary on these accounts and Bob's your uncle, you have all this money now. Where I can now put, like, for her, hey, at 25, you get some maybe for school or whatever you want to do, or at 30, you want to start a business, your oldest, he's not a school guy. So we're like, okay, instead of, a school parameters, like, hey, you want to start a business, you want to entrepreneur, you want to buy a house, let's put it on there for that, So that's where you get to cater it to your people, which is kind of fun.
Well, and while we're at it, since my daughter is almost 18 and you were on there for her, if being under 18 and if something were to happen to us, that you were going to be the one that cared for her. Now, how does that work now that she will be 18? Do I need to drop that, or does that just stays on there because it goes away?
Yeah, because she's 18 now. She's her own little person, and so I don't need to be looking after her, guarding her. I mean, we all do, because
everyone, yes,
till she's probably 40. Yeah. But legally, I don't need to be her guardian, because now she's her own person legally.
And you don't need to drop it off there, just automatically.
It just kind of falls off. Yeah, it's no longer applicable. You can amend it and say, she's no longer 18, but we all understand that. We see the birth date and understand she's an adult now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. That's what's cool about it. That's a trust, or revocable living trust, and an estate plan is a moving living document. It flows with your life. It goes in and out. We have people fall off. We have people come in. You know what I mean? We can put parameters. We can amend it again. You can do all those things. And that's what's really cool about it, is it's your document, your life. You have the control, as opposed to if you didn't, we're at the court process just guessing and having to follow the state's plan.
Right. Absolutely.
Ain't no one got time for the government to tell us what to do.
No.
So I've known you forever and a day, but my people listening, all 4 of them, appreciate you, all 4 of you. Thanks, Dad. Do not know you.
Does your dad?
Oh, yeah, of course. My dad's music is on here. Yeah, my dad's like
nice.
My hype man.
How fun! I love that.
Oh, I know. He's fantastic. He's also my tech guy too. I'm like, Dad, I don't know how this works. He's like, Lindsay, I can fix this for you, which is quite great, because he's an old age pensioner and has nothing better to do but dick around with tech. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, he makes better videos and movies than all of us. Like, it's ridiculous. That's what happens when you get to retire and be an old Englishman in the countryside.
I like it.
Yeah. But what for you? So you basically have been working for the school district since you were 14. You worked at the print shop. And then you became a teacher, which I think in one of our episodes we talked about career paths and jobs. And when we would play jobs as kids, she was a school teacher. So we followed that path. I was a business owner. So weird how these things work out.
It is.
So tell us about you. Tell us about your life, like your trajectory, how you started out with teaching, why you decided to retire at the age old of 26. Just kidding.
Yes, and I.
Well, you had 30 years, 35 years?
30 years with the district. So I did start when I was 14 at the school district at the print shop, and was only supposed to be there for 3 weeks, and worked through the summer, and then I apparently liked it, so stayed there. Went to UNR and was able to get my teaching credentials, and still was working at the print shop until I became a teacher, and then still was in Nevada PERS that whole time, and was able to retire after 30 years with the school district when I was 44. So, and then ever since then, haven't realized what I want to do with my life, because I did start teaching right away and get into the with the district, and so it's just been. I feel like I've tried everything. I was working with the vet. What was I doing? I don't even remember. Before I started working for you.
Yeah, the Veterans Agency.
Oh yeah, the Veterans Hospital. Yeah, for about 10 minutes, and then you talked me out of that. Working for the Veterans Hospital during COVID, and being put in the I don't even remember what it was called. It was not even that long ago. The Student Affairs office, and so I had my daily was going to the morgue and checking to see who was there and who was not there, and who passed over the night before, and talking with wives and children, and being in an office by myself. And I was just like, my husband's like, Lori, you just taught for how many years, and you dealt with a lot of stuff, and now you're dealing with this. He goes, that is not a fun second job.
No, it's not relaxing at all.
No, not relaxing, not stressless.
Wedding rings off of dead hands. Yeah.
Yes, it was horrible. And
necessary job, but not for you.
No, not after everything I'd already been through with teaching. And then you thankfully took me on, and I did a lot of work for you for a few months, and then ended up going back to teaching. It's just my passion is. And so I did taught PE for a whole year with all the kids at my old school, and then even went back to the classroom for a year, and then now realized, okay, I'm done with that. But I am now working for the state at the education level, so we're working doing that. And I have definitely enjoyed it a lot more being on the outside and being able to make some changes and do good work there without having to necessarily be with students that have behaviors.
So tell me the progression from when you started in 1942 to now.
Okay, let's not go to 1942. Yeah. I don't think that's where we're at, but
I'm math good, everyone. I'm math so good. From when you started, you got you went to university, you got your teaching credentials, you did your student teaching, and then now you are a teacher in a classroom. Back then, how did your career basically transition or progress from baby teacher, feeling dew-eyed and bushy-tailed that you're going to change the world and these children, to when you decided to retire? Why did you decide to retire? You could have kept on keeping on.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's kind of ironic, I want to say, because I feel like when I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. Like you mentioned, when we were kids, we would play school all the time, and everybody always wanted me to be the teacher. And I don't know if you guys saw that within me, when I was little, or you liked my stickers. I don't know which one it was, but
very fond of stickers. As you can tell, I love the stickers. I never grew out of that.
But I wanted to do that ever since I was little, and then I don't know. Every teacher that was a teacher at when I became a teacher, I felt like saw Dangerous Minds and was like, oh my gosh, I want to be this, Michelle Pfeiffer, and I want to do all these things and change the world. And I thought that's who I wanted to be. I was like, oh, I'm going to be her, I'm going to do all these things with these hard kids. And then, hi.
Sorry, everyone. The cat is very vocal today and would like to be part of this interview.
And I haven't seen her for a while, so.
Your little knees.
And then ironically, that's what kind of took me out at the end, is the behaviors. And it was just too much for me. And I had great classroom management, and my admin saw that, and hi. And then I just got harder and harder kids, and it just became so challenging and so stressful and just so much. And then, it just wore me out. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And it's hard because this is what's happening to a lot of teachers who have amazing classroom management, and they are the ones that always get those hard kids. And then it's just wearing, and you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I remember you had that one class that was awful that year, and I would call you on your lunch break and be like, please don't murder anybody, please don't murder yourself, please, you can make it through another
day. For the record,
day.
I never did, and I never did anything inappropriate.
It's like, that just pep talk, and then I'd call you after school and be like, okay, please don't go drink a whole bottle of whatever it is right now, you can make it through another day, let's go to the gym, let's go walk, let's do healthy things, to get through that year. That was brutal. I remember that was terrible. So with that, what is the worst experience you had? Because I know exactly that you have such great classroom management and you're so proficient at what you do. So they would give you, asshole ass kids, so, what are some stories about that? What are your best children, that you've taught, and kids that you see maybe, even now as an adult, that can see you? Because I think about the teachers I had in my life and how thankful I am for them and how amazing they were. And I'm sure I was a difficult ass kid. I'm still a difficult ass adult, but I know that they would give you these difficult students. I remember the one more recently where basically the teacher just walked out because the kid was so awful, and they gave him to you, and you're like, no, it's great, it's fine, I got it together, and you're like, wow, that's what a skill set, but it does burn people out in that profession. So tell me a little bit more about those kind of experiences.
Well, I mean, one notable one, I think you're talking about the one year that I had a super rough group of kids, and ironically it was the same year my son was in 6th grade. And he would actually been with all those kiddos, and decided to move him to the school closer to our house, because we knew that in the long run he would need to be going to middle school and high school in that area. I'd known all that same group of kids since they were kindergartners because they were, you're a little, she's like caught. I don't want her nails caught. So anyways, and this particular year, she's okay.
In a pain.
Her nail got stuck in my pants.
You got stuck.
This particular year, I had one kid, and oh man, I can't even think about all the issues, but one particular thing, I almost felt like I was getting bullied by him, and it's not something like who do you say that you're getting bullied by a 10-year-old or 11-year-old? You know what I mean? Like, that's so weird to say that. But he would, I'd walk past him and he would call me names and like whisper them under his breath so that nobody else could hear. And he would do that like on a daily. And it was just like, this is not like a healthy environment that I'm in, that you're getting, you know what I mean? Like, you're getting called names. He would call me names, like my daughter would walk in and she was, I want to say maybe first or second, maybe kindergarten or first grade. And she would come into my classroom after school and he would be calling me names. And I'm just like, this is so embarrassing. Like, this kid is calling me names in front of my own daughter, you know, it's like totally disrespectful. And, just things like that. I mean, and you definitely have had kids curse you out, and and they'll go away for a few minutes, and then the next thing you know, they're at your door, and you're still you're so upset about it. And this kid has been taken away, given, we always say that, they were given a lollipop or a bag of chips or something, and they come back here and they're just happy as can be and coming back in your classroom. Well, I haven't had the time to be okay with it. Like, I want to have a conversation with this kid outside the classroom, but no, he's said this thing to me, he gets taken away, and I'm just made to continue on teaching after he said, F you in the middle of class, and I can't do anything about it. He goes away, I'm made to continue teaching, and I haven't had the time to process it. So at the end of my career, I started saying things like, no, he can't come back into my classroom. I need to speak with him first. He doesn't get to come back until he apologizes to me, until we've had a conversation. And I would ask for admin to come into my classroom and teach while I went outside and had a minute to actually speak to he or she, because it just wasn't fair that I was doing that. And I think a lot of teachers, that's what's happening right now. And they don't know how to deal with it, and they don't, the kids are coming back with a lollipop after they've just been cursed out, and cursed out the teacher, and then come back and, okay, here this kid is. They don't even have to say they're sorry anymore. And now we're having things like you can see all over social media where they're beating the crap out of the teachers.
That was my next question of like, what about the violence issue? You see these kids just beating the shit out of a teacher, and you're just like, oh my God, like, how is this okay?
Yeah. And that's
for no pay.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're getting, now you're getting beat up or this or that, and then they don't listen at all. And then they'll have security come in, and then they don't listen to the security. And then we've seen the videos where the security drags the girl out or this or that. And what happens? Who's wrong?
Right.
It's never the kid that's wrong.
Yeah, we don't see the full picture, full story of where it came to that. Yeah, it looks terrible. Where you're like, oh my God, this guy is pulling this poor little girl out. She's 6 years old or whatever. Well, yeah, you didn't see what happened before that, where she's throwing a desk and hitting somebody and being disrespectful. And, it's scary. Well,
and the other thing that's happening now, and it's been on social media a lot lately, is that the evacuating the classroom. And we used to think evacuating the classroom was for things like fire drill, or somebody got sick, or we will evacuate the classroom. And now we're evacuating the classroom because of one student that cannot contain themselves and will start throwing things and start throwing desks and chairs and books and different things, and they won't leave. So you ask them to leave, admin tries to come and get them to leave, and they won't. And so what do you have to do? The only choice that you have is to take your kids and go out and let the kid be there and destroy your classroom. And that happens every single day. And some teachers, it's over and over and over, week after week after week, and that's happening to their classroom. And then guess who gets to come back in and clean it all up afterwards?
Right.
Every day.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think has caused this? I know we can't really obviously know, but
I do.
Okay. Well, let me know, because I'm sure everyone else would like to know too, because this is like, an epidemic in our society, and I don't really feel like we see that in other countries or other cultures. I feel like it's a very American thing, and why?
I think, and I'm going to say this, is that it's parents. Parents are not disciplining their kids, and they're not teaching their kids to value education. And so they don't care. The teachers or the parents don't care about teachers. They don't respect them, and their kids see it. And so the kids know that they're not going to get in trouble at home, that they don't care if we call home and say, hey, so-and-so is doing this, because they'll turn around and tell you, I don't care. My parents don't care. I'm not going to get in trouble. So you have no authority, really, and so you can only do what you can do in the time that you have them, and just complete lack of respect.
That's crazy. So why do you think the parents just don't care anymore? Like, what has shifted with that?
I don't know. I don't know if it's, them seeing things and like how things went when they were kids, and they didn't like teachers. And so then they've just grown up into the idea that, oh, well, they're all out to get me or this or that. I don't know. That part I don't know, but I do know that it's definitely a situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of people think that you guys are there to raise their kids and babysit their kids, when it's like, no, you're just here to educate. You're not supposed to do everything else. That's your job as a parent, you know?
I mean, like, we've had conferences before. My husband will talk about it because he's a special ed teacher, and he'll say, we were at an IEP, and the parents will say, well, I can't get him to do anything at home. He won't do this or that. And Will goes, well, I'll say it anyway. And he'll say, yeah, no, he does it for me. He'll tie his shoe here in class. He'll do the work here. But, they won't do it at home. And so it's almost like they're respecting teachers more than their own parents.
Interesting. That's an interesting reason, or there's a whole bunch of things we can go to, like tinfoil hat conspiracy things about society as well, and government interference, and how the just family values and all that. It's very interesting to think about.
Well, and I just think about us, and we've had this conversation before, all of our friends who have kids, and they're not jerks.
Yeah, I know they're very good
they have their issues and things like that, but they are nice kids. And when you think about why, it's we have them involved in sports. We
art and
have conversations with them. We sit down at the dinner table and eat like a family. And a lot of those things, I don't think those values are done anymore. People don't do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of families too. Like we went to a pretty culturally diverse school and low income, and even those families, because I was thinking, well, maybe it's a working thing, or people still hustling and working. And I was like, no, because all of our friends, had single parents and single mothers who were working 85 hours a day to help for these, and they're all good kids too. They're all good adults now that we went to school with, and they were hardworking families and took the time to, even though they didn't have a lot of time because they were working so hard, to still raise their children.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a lack of that these days, because I can't say, oh, it's just because you're working so hard. Well, no, because we went to school with a lot of those people. We have friends that are that way, or grew up that way. So yeah, it is an interesting concept or reasoning of why everything's going to hell in a handbasket these days.
But it's like helplessness. It's just, we were talking the other night about, it snowed here, and how people just pulled over on the side of the road and the freeway closed because people just decided to stop.
Right.
Just stop in the middle of the street and just, I don't know, wait. And I saw a post on Facebook, and a mom had stated, my daughter's stuck. When will they be sending help? That's what it said on Facebook. And I'm sitting there going,
the Avengers coming in? Like, what do you mean? Who's helping?
Who? Oh, yes, me. I'm on my way. Like, who? You are the one. Like, that child is the one. Move your car. Get it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's just this helplessness. Like, we're just going to sit here and wait for somebody else to help us, because that's the world we live in. Somebody's always going to bail you out. Somebody's always going to help you. So we just park in the middle of the freeway and wait for somebody to come and help.
Instead of figuring it out yourself.
Instead of figuring it out yourself. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I never thought about it that. Yikes. Yeah.
And we're just getting more and more towards that, I'm like, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And is that why you ultimately decided to retire?
Well, that, and it didn't make sense. I mean, after you had a certain amount of years, you weren't going to make any more money. And reality-wise, it was like I needed to go find something else to continue to make money. But, being able to get the pension already, it didn't make sense really to continue to stay when you already received that and now can go on to something else and
be abused and yelled at and screamed at
and
potentially
and go to the morgue
or no.
Yeah. No, but I mean, finding something else that still is an education is what I did realize that I wanted to do.
Well, to try to change into
from a different aspect.
Yeah, from good input, because you've been there for 30 years and you've been in the trenches and you've worked your way up. And seeing all that, and then having to try to do some, policy implementation and, legislating and getting that more.
And ideally, I'd love to help teachers with like a coaching type situation at some point where I can go into the classroom and help. And I've talked to a lot of teachers who have retired, and they're like, hey, get something going. Like, we'd be totally into this, because that's what we feel like we would want to do, is these old school teachers that have the classroom management, that have amazing discipline, that are amazing teachers, still want to continue to help in the education world. And they're super interested in something like that, but how do we get it going?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think, you don't become a teacher because you're going to make, you're going to get your Lamborghini and
correct.
And go, live in the Maldives or whatever. Like, you do it because you're passionate, because you do want to help. You are a service, provider, frankly, for people. And that's a really altruistic kind of profession to go into, frankly, because I don't have the patience for that. I mean, I substitute taught when I was, going to college and stuff. And I was just like, yep, this is not the jam for me.
Yeah.
It's, and even then, I mean, the kids were way better then, frankly, I think, and they were still pretty cool with me because I really was really mellow as a substitute teacher. But it's exhausting, and I don't think people understand that. Like, it is freaking exhausting, and people are like, oh, well, you only work 9 to 3, and I was like, that's so cute.
Well, and it's always my favorite that, oh, well, you get all this time off, you get summers off, you get this off, you get that off. And okay, guess what? We're getting paid. We get paid 185 days a year. That's what I'm getting paid for. And they're actually keeping our paychecks and collecting interest, I'm sure, because we don't get it. They spread it out over the 12 months. And so people always say that, oh, you get paid for summer. No, I don't. I get paid the 185 days, and they keep my money and then pay me out over 12 months.
Right. They actually, yeah.
So
you're really getting $2 an hour, basically, for your time. Yeah, and I don't think people understand, too, about the time that goes into it. It's, you're working, or you're on the clock, essentially, from 9 to 3, because that's when you have students. But you have that prep time. You have to get there at 7. You stay until 5. You expend your own
grade
personal
papers
money
at home. And and I always laugh at that. I don't know if you've seen that meme, like, oh, teachers, they're just like glorified babysitters, and let's pay them that. Let's pay them the $6 an hour, and then times 25 kids, and then times the 7 hours, and then and the next thing that works up to like $250,000. Like, oh wait, no, that's not correct. That's not correct. We didn't mean that.
Yeah, JK.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I would like that. I'll take the babysitting funds, please.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's what I'm doing for you. Since you obviously aren't raising your own kids, I guess I am a babysitter.
Right.
Yeah. And then your education, your continuing education that you have to do, and keeping up on things, and that classroom management, it's a lot. It's exhausting, and then taking the time to be able to convey information that people understand, and you have a whole classroom of different levels too, and trying to accommodate for everybody. It's not like you have just one set group that's all at the same level. Everybody's at their own level.
Yeah.
And making sure everyone is still working and learning. And then on top of it, the money that you have to expend for supplies and things that aren't provided, and things that make learning fun for these kids. It's a difficult road, for
Indeed.
Sure. I can see why people don't want to get into it, aren't getting into it, and are leaving, quite rapidly.
Yeah, no, and that's really sad, because there is quite a high turnover, especially in different parts. Especially in Clark, I'm learning there's quite a huge turnover in Las Vegas, and they'll get new teachers and then they just don't stay.
I mean, I can go work at Starbucks for more money and not be abused like that. Here's your macchiato, have a nice day. Everyone's pretty stoked you're there.
Exactly.
So it's it's a shame.
Well, remember what I wanted to do? When
Be a Dutch Bro.
I wanted to work at Dutch Bro and just give everyone a stamp. And you're unhappy. Let me just stamp your card a couple more times there. Make everyone happy.
Here's a free beverage. Have a good day.
Yes.
You know, like I joke about that too. Where I'm just like, man, that coffee shop life again. I'm like, man, I go back to that. It was much easier sometimes. Yeah. Like I said, most people are pretty happy to see you. Like,
exactly.
They need the caffeine. They want a little sugar. Like, everyone's good. Here's a cookie. Hooray.
Yeah, put a couple extra stamps on there and they're happy.
Yeah, you're not going to potentially get shot up one day because some kid comes in and they're
No, and last year I had an incident, in fact, and maybe that's what you were talking about, where I got a student moved to my classroom, and they were moved to my classroom because the mother had threatened to beat up, do something to the other teacher.
Wow.
And so then I was given that student, and they were not allowed to come on the campus, but still it's kind of in the back of your mind that you're like, this is a real situation here and kind of scary.
Yeah, and no wonder why the kids have no respect when the
when the parents
already being like, I'm just gonna come beat the shit out of you or whatever it is, and why would the kid even think that you should have respect or should follow any kind of rules or regulations or just basic human decency with somebody in an authoritative position. Don't get me wrong, I hate authority. I have authoritative issues all day long, but I understand the roles that people play, and all my professors were really awesome, and I do appreciate that because they're doing a thankless job, frankly. Oh shit, that's a very nice expensive bottle of wine he gave me.
You just now heard.
Yeah, it was a 125er.
Oh.
We're just, it's a bougie ass fucking weekend, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
I don't know if you heard me, so I went to my friend's house. So this guy, AJ, he owns a Quickie Mart on Prater, and then decided to, basically has like great selections at this Quickie Mart. Okay, so he decided to open this Drams and Smoke place, which is great. So he has great whiskeys and scotches and all those things that you can get, but he also gets a lot of wine in there. And he posted on his Facebook page this great amount of shipment of wine he got in, and I was like scrolling in, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, that's a Chablis from France? Okay, cool. I'm like doing a shopping list basically of what he got in. He also got the...
So you bought those from the Quickie Mart?
Yeah, but it's not really Quickie Mart. It's like 2 doors down from the Quickie Mart. So it's the same owner, but it's yes, at the end of the day, yes. Homeboy has nothing less than $50 in the store. And then he also posted my favorite ice wine. It's a Canadian Inclencing, I can never say it right, a Cab Franc ice wine. It is phenomenal. It is my favorite. And I was like, bro, I'll take that. He's like, oh, I didn't tell you the price. I go, I don't even care the price. I don't even care. I will take one, please. And then I went in there and I was like, cool, okay. I was going to our friend's house for dinner. We were having, it was like bougie ass weekend. Like they were like, oh, we just have crab and lobster. And I was like, the fuck is this? But he gets great deals from the meat department because he's, store director for one of our supermarkets. So, it was, I don't know, great price apparently. And I was like, I will definitely come for dinner. I will bring some wine for everyone. So I got the Chablis because that's going to go great with the crab and the lobster and all that. And we had nice mushroom risotto, which was phenomenal. And then this ice wine. And then, of course, when I'm in there, I was like, oh, what's this bottle of Rioja over here? Okay, I'll take that too. Yeah, it's a problem. I was like, the store's a problem.
So you had all that?
I had all that. And then we had a nice, was a Farniente Post and Bean, their brand cab to start with, which was fantastic with the charcuterie. No, it was like the most bougie-ass thing ever.
She made charcuterie for you?
No, Trini did.
Okay, yeah. I'm mad.
No,
you did not invite me.
No, I know. I feel so bougie right now, even talking about this. Like, we had all those things.
I know. And then what are we having now?
And then today is Champagne Day, Champagne Sunday. We're recording this for everybody. So I have a nice bottle of Domaine Carneros. It's a Blanc de Blanc, which means that it's all white. There's no Pinot or anything in there. It's Le Rev 2015. I did not realize this when I opened it, that it was just going to be an average bottle, but it is not. This is a very nice highfalutin wine. If this winery here would love to sponsor me, I will 100 take your sponsorship all day long. You just send me a case every couple weeks, whatever. I will talk the shit out of it. Yeah. So this bottle, I did not realize it, for our afternoon Sunday drinking is $130, and I love it. And I'm, I don't make that kind of money, but I'm just going to pretend like I do. And, we're going to yellow it up because that's kind of how I roll every day. every day. So yeah, so this weekend has been a very expensive weekend because we had the ice wine, which was about 130, the Chablis, which I think was 60, the Post and Bean, which is another probably $100 bottle or 85-ish around there, and then crab and lobster. So when you equate it all out, we're bougie as shit, and I'm okay with that because YOLO entrepreneurship. Mind you, I only made not much money until yesterday. So, that's the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Some day it's, you're having crab feast with, very expensive wines. And other days you're like, ooh, yeah, I need some PBR over here because that's the price point. That's how entrepreneurship rules. It's a little bit difficult sometimes. But yes, so the nice Sunday afternoon drinking for $130. Aren't you glad you came over?
I am.
So cheers. So yes, if Domaine Caneros would like to sponsor me in any way, I will 100% just, take that and then, talk the shit out of it for you. I will rep this all day long for you. So, yeah. Thanks. So when you guys have champagne, and if you don't want to be a boozy alcoholic all day and drink this whole bottle by yourself because you and your cats are hanging out and you feel a little depressy, yeah, let's not do that. What you do have is this little kind of handy top. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but if you don't, these are for sparklings and for champagnes, and it basically keeps your bottle snug in there and keeps it good, so you can just put it back in the fridge and you can have maybe some a little bit later, or you can have some the next day and it still keeps and it's still good to go. So it's a preservation system for your sparklings. So what made you finally get your shit together and get an estate plan?
Well, that's because my best friend kept hounding me about it over and over and over again. No, I mean, nobody wants to talk about it. I feel like, it's a terrible topic. Nobody wants to talk about death. And so I feel like I just pushed it off. Not because I didn't think I needed to have it, especially working for you and knowing, if you get a will, what will happen? And if you don't have anything, what can happen? Those are scary, scary things too. So for me, it was my husband and I were going to go on vacation, and we were going to be gone for the first time, almost 3 weeks away from the kids. And thought if something happens to us and, this is a real thing with us being away, that something could happen. And so I was like, okay, I guess we better, go ahead and get this done. And so we went ahead and called up somebody really close to the family who
That's me.
who was able to, set that up for us. And, the site that you have is really good, and I could type in everything myself and get it all ready and organized. And it was helpful because we got to sit there and have conversations, my husband and I, about tough questions, and do it at our leisure, which I liked. And so we can have those discussions and then go ahead and in the program that you have, and then type in what we wanted and went through each question like that, and just having those conversations. And again, hard to do and scary to do, because it's just, you do it all the time, so it doesn't bother you, but it's hard to have those conversations. So,
and that's why I have that workbook, because I like that, so people can kind of see what we're looking, because it is kind of a nebulous thing of like, well, what is an estate plan? What am I doing? What am I talking about? What are my decisions? What is this? It is a big decision. And that's why I have that workbook to help you guys work through that. Here are the questions we're looking for. Here are the tough discussions to have. And now you have a little cheat sheet workbook to go through. Yeah. And then you do your questions, so you have kind of a basis to have those discussions. And they're not fun. Nobody wants to talk about that. No. But it's the reality of the world is that, we're not going to be here eventually, So let's make sure that happens. So yeah, tell me more about you doing that.
Well, it's just, I think that the biggest thing is, especially when the kids were younger, it's like you just don't want to think about it. You just want to, hope for the best, and which is really, really scary to think about, because had something happened when I was, when the kids were younger, what would have happened, because nothing was set up. And so doing that and getting that set up, it was definitely a necessity, especially with, my son was already, well over 18. But my daughter was under 18, and still is. But, I was like, okay, I got to get this done, because somebody who is going to care for her.
Because I think that's a good point, like you said, is that, yeah, it's scary to think about this and get these things in place, because you're thinking about you're not here or something's bad has happened to you and your spouse. But also the alternative of that is scarier that if you don't have anything in place, what is going to happen to your kids? Are they going to go into foster care? Are they going to go to the state? Like, these are things that we really don't want for the most part. That's like last resort type things, and so you got to balance your scary and your hard, essentially. It's like that meme of, pick your hard. Well, yeah, these are hard things to talk about, but it's even harder to put your head in the sand and have potentially something very bad happen, and then your kids are not helped out or provided for, and then that's even a worse situation than you just, heading on
sitting
and dealing with it,
Yeah. Yeah, no. And so, and that's kind of, led us to getting it done. And it's just nice to know that it's done. And it's so funny because anytime I have a conversation with anybody, and just last night I was at a dinner party and I said, oh, something about the trust. And both of the other women were like, oh man, we gotta, we gotta call Lindsay. We gotta get this taken care of. We gotta get it done because it is, everybody knows they need to have it, but nobody wants to deal with it, I think.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit of an expense too. And so, but you has to be done.
Yeah.
And they know that has to be done.
Right. And we're way more affordable. And that's why, with my whole setup, I have the different tiers. Essentially, we have the lowest tier at $250, do it yourself, so at least you can get it done. I walk you through everything with the videos and the templates and everything. You have all the resources there to confidently do it for yourself for very affordable, right?
Yeah.
I have then the step up from that where I'll do the documents for you. You tell me what you want, with the questionnaire. I'll email it to your inbox and you're able to, print it, sign it, notarize, and then fund your trust. And then,
which is what again?
Yeah. So wait, what? Transferring your assets, physically transferring your assets. And even that is at $497, and we have a split payment for that, so you can even break that up for 2 months. So I try to make that, and then of course we have my Nevada High Sierra Legal full concierge type, hand holding, and so I try to give the different levels for people to get it done because it is so important.
Yeah.
If you have kids, you should automatically have an estate plan.
Yeah.
Like, automatically. Maybe you're like me, you're not married. Apparently I'm difficult. Weird. You don't have the kiddos. I've got 47 of them, but they're just not my own. And, making sure that somebody can advocate for me. My family my dad's in England. He's far away. My mom's across the country, so I don't have direct family who can come. I'm an only child. That's probably why I'm difficult. Only children. Virgo, only child. Making sure that somebody is here to immediately advocate for me who's not related to me. So if I was in the hospital, you're able to come in for me and say, hey, oh yeah, now pull that plug, let's go, because I've given you the authority to do so, and you're not related to me. If I didn't have that, you wouldn't be able to come in and do that for me, so it's important for people who, like I said, if you have children, you should automatically have it. But also, if you don't have children, you should automatically have it because who's going to do those things for you?
Yeah. Well, and then the trust is also set up that, those pieces are in place as well. The power of attorney and the medical, is that the power of attorney also?
Yeah,
medical?
Two when we have medical and financial.
Yeah, financial and medical. And so that's, to have that all in one place and and maybe that's not the same person. Maybe that's different people doing each of those tasks, but having that all done and ready to go if those decisions have to be made as well.
Yeah, so it's super important that way. And I always say, we don't think about it, but it's like when we fly. We're excited to fly. We're going on a trip. Maybe some people have that anxiety. They don't want to be in a plane. But we have that safety briefing. So we know if the door blows off, what happens? Oh, the oxygen mask comes down. Yeah, row 26. Shit, the wing fell off. Please don't fly Boeing these days. Just kidding. Yay, Boeing. That you have that game plan of what's going to happen in a bad situation. We don't think that that's going to happen, but clearly bad things happen. So let's have that roadmap. Let's have that already set out that we know what's going on. We have that safety briefing, if you will, for your life. And cool, it's there. Hopefully we never have to use it, or we have to use it when we're 98 or 105. Wonderful. But until then, we're fragile meat puppets and bad things happen to us.
Yeah.
So having that little bit of insulation. And I always say, I have a lot of clients who are like, oh, my biggest compliment, frankly, with people that I work with, that they just say that was so easy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of times, law firms and attorneys really fail people, is that I don't know if they feel like they need to, feel very confident in themselves, or how professional they are, or how great they are with that Maserati out front and that bitchin' looking secretary and all that they have to justify this, that, they're so important. You have to come back 16 different times and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, why? We're all busy. We don't have time for this shit.
Yeah.
So let's make it as easy and as painless as possible to do a difficult thing, you know? And so that's my biggest compliment I get from people, is they're just like, oh my God, that was so easy. I talked to a lawyer, I talked to a law firm, and I had to get all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
I don't want that stuff too. I want, first off, I want you to have a little bit of ownership in it, to know that you've done this. And two, I want to keep your private stuff private. I don't need to know all that.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that I remember when I was working for you, is that the conversations that I'd hear you have, and it was that I don't want to know any of the personal information, whereas I know other friends who have gotten trust done through lawyers, and they want all the details. They want all the accounts, all the everything. And it's like, why would you even want to be accountable for those things?
And that's the thing is like, I need to know certain things, like where do you have assets? Do you have a bank account? Do you have an investment account? Do you have CDs or annuities or life insurance or whatever that is? You know, the basic stuff. Do you have ponies, yacht, chalets? Are you having a bougie Sunday with your champagne? You know, you're sparkling today. You know, yeah, I need to know that, but I don't need to know the details of it. I don't give two shits how much you have on an account. I just want to make sure that that account is able to be transferred if you're not here. And like, I like to educate people on that, of how that works. You know, some of these law firms do all that, and I've had clients go, I don't know if this was done. Some lawyer said they did it. And a lot of the times that shit wasn't done because somebody dropped the ball and their paralegal messed up or something, or the client didn't understand that they need to do that. I like to be upfront right from the get-go that the client knows, hey, you're going to have a little bit of legwork here because I want you to have that ownership, that you remember, fuck, we went to the DMV, God, that sucked. You know what I mean? But I know the car's in there.
Yeah.
You know, I know the house is in there. I know we went to the bank and we got the bank accounts in there. Everything is good. So you have that confidence too, that you know you've done a good job and everything is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of a little bit difference there. So yeah, it is important to get that all done for sure. And so I'm glad that you guys finally did that, but it's a lot of people think that. They're like, oh, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to do this. You know, it's scary and I don't want to make these decisions. And I always tell people too that it's not necessarily like we have to think and rabbit hole 50 years from now what happens when the kids are now 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80. And it's like, no, we need to do the next 5 years.
Right. And then the thing is then you can always amend it.
Correct. Yeah. So you can always change your mind. So we're not setting this in stone. And that's where I think a lot of people also get hung up of like,
yes, I
have to make these finite decisions, these finalities.
Right.
That's not
now,
real.
Right.
We just need to, you know, every 3 to 5 years. Shit, you can change it 6 months from now. And I've had to do that with mine because I, you know, had to make adjustments for situations.
My kids
you
are
know,
assholes.
Yeah, because you're asshole kids. Yeah, asshole kids basically. You know, is what it usually comes down to. So, you know, that's where people do get hung up and stuck of like, oh, I have to make these concrete, not changeable decisions, and that's not true with a revocable trust. I need 3 to 5 years. We can change it next year, changes 6 months from now, 3 months from now, changes. We can make those changes. It's not set in stone, and it's supposed to not be set in stone because it's supposed to flow with your life. So that's kind of the cool thing with it as well. So I asked this of my guests, you know, so this is my question. All these like podcasts have the question of like, if you had a billboard, what would that be on? My question for you is that, you know, if you were looking at your younger self, what would be the advice that you would give your younger self, whether that's career, job, family, children's life, whatever it is, what would you want as your younger self to hear that would make an impact in your life?
You are good enough, you are smart enough, and doggone it, people like you.
For us old Gen Xers out there, you'll know exactly where that quote is from.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that's what I would probably say, because I really do. I think starting out at the print shop at 14 was probably the best decision I've ever made. Being able to retire when I was 44 and figure out life from there. And then my family, I mean, I couldn't be any more grateful. So
yeah, you have a good family.
I don't know that I would say too much other than what I said at the beginning.
Yeah. Say it again
that's
for
always,
everyone.
You're smart enough, you're good enough, and doggone it, people like you.
That's wonderful. Yay, cheers to that. So thank you guys for listening on this episode. I would like to thank my not sponsor, Domaine Caneros.
Yet.
Anyone reach out to me. I'll totally rep the shit out of your brand. I love it. And happy Sunday to everybody.
You.
And if you guys have questions, you can always find the show notes with all the links and everything. And of course, when you think of death, think of me.
Did you thank your guest?
Oh, hey. Well,
have another glass of wine.
Yeah, she just comes hangs out. So I'm like, well, thank my guest, Lori Wilson, for being here, educator extraordinaire, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you found value, please like, subscribe, and share. And be sure to follow me on all the socials at Sips and Tips with Lindsay. And of course, you can always go to my website, sipsandtipswithlindsay.com, to find more information about estate planning, business, snowboard, travel, and of course, wine.